folks, it's Jeff here. Just a quick reminder, if you're loving Disney Coast to Coast, there are a couple of easy ways that you can support the show. We'd love it if you could rate and review us on iTunes, or wherever you listen to the show. This is a simple way to help other Disney fans find us. Also, go ahead and share your favorite episodes on social media and be sure to tag us. You can find all of our social media information at DisneyCoastToCoast.com. And finally, I just want to say thank you to all of you who listen every week. Your support is very appreciated, and we love that you're enjoying our Disney geekiness. Now on with the show.
Do you dream of fairies and princesses? Then you've come to the right place. Welcome to Disney Coast to Coast.
Hey folks, and welcome to Disney Coast to Coast, the ultimate unofficial Disney fan podcast. I'm Jeff DePaoli, and today on the show I have Miss Tiffany Mink joining me for another Princess Pondering. Hello and welcome back, Tiffany.
Hi, for the last one.
The final Princess Pondering. That means we've gone through all 11 official Disney princesses after today, and I've saved a great one for last, Princess Aurora from Sleeping Beauty. So let's get to that right now.
Take off those tiaras and put on your thinking cap. It's time for Princess Pondering.
Okay, Tiffany, where does Aurora stand for you as far as the ranking of Disney princesses?
Honestly, she's up there. I think she has a certain class about her. I really love Aurora. She's in my top 5 for sure.
Yeah, I'm a big... It's funny, I haven't seen her movie a ton, but I really like her. And I don't know if that's just because of the association with Disneyland and her castle and everything, but I'm kind of a big fan of hers. And, you know, one of the nice things about this film is it has that classic storybook opening. And I think it was that one. Do you remember at the D23 Expo a few years back, there was several at this point, they had in the archives exhibit, like, the book.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy. Just to even think that that's sitting somewhere in archives. Like, that's such a classic Disney thing, the book. And I love that the film starts that way. But, yeah, overall, I'm a big fan. I'm happy to end on this one.
I think after the last episode that Aurora will be a breath of fresh air.
Yes. Big fan. So, now, one of the things that I love about Aurora, and we see Merida as a youngster. Are there any other princesses? We see Aurora from birth, essentially.
Oh yeah,
in a crib.
She's a baby,
and we don't see that with the other princesses.
I mean, we see Rapunzel.
Oh, we see her
like
as a kid.
Baby
That's right.
Rapunzel.
Okay. That's true.
And Tiana.
Okay, well, you're just so much smarter than me.
Sorry, I love the princesses.
No, you're right. But I don't know. For some reason, Aurora in a crib, I was like, oh. This seems a little new, but like even those the ones you mentioned, were they children or were they?
They're like toddlers.
Okay, Rapunzel was in a crib at one point or no?
Yeah, she is actually in a crib because she has the mobile.
Okay,
the mobile.
You're right.
With the sun.
I'm an idiot. Then
we even see Cinderella like as a kid.
Do we?
Yeah, like when it first opens,
yes,
not like a baby, but she's like a child.
Okay, well there goes that theory of why I love her. But no, I don't know. For some reason I saw that I was like, oh yeah, she's like a baby. But in this film, I just love the fairies. Can we just talk about how amazing the fairies are in this movie? Just tell me some of your favorite moments in general.
Fauna might be one of my favorite Disney characters ever.
Which color is she?
She's the green one.
Okay, the little chubby one.
No, that's Merryweather in blue.
Okay, the green one. The one who
who
doesn't fight over the colors. The one who bakes the cake.
Who tries to fold the eggs in the batter.
Yes.
I'm just like, what a precious cinnamon roll. She's the greatest. I'm like, Fauna, you are an actual idiot, and I love you so much.
So you made a pretty bold statement. You said one of your favorite Disney characters.
I mean, I don't know, she makes me smile. Like, watching it more recently, I'm just like, wow, she is amazing. I don't think there's a lot of other characters that are like her. She's so unapologetically ditzy and naive about the world, and I'm just like, wow. I love Fauna.
The fairies in general, I think, are hilarious. I don't know. Sorry, I don't know the three of them as well as some may, but there's that great moment when they're making the cake, as you mentioned, and making the dress for Aurora's birthday. One of them goes, "Oh, it looks awful," and the other one goes, "It's because it's you. It's because you're in it, dear, or it's on you,
Because
dear.
it's on you, dear.
It's because it's on you, dear." And I was like, "What a hilarious moment! Like that is just and so unapologetically again, just very matter of fact. Oh, it's because it's on you."
The fairies are like very real. Like they're pretty like relatable. And I feel like for a movie that came 1959, like we didn't see a lot of kind of very off the cuff characters that seemed relatable and funny and goofy and weren't afraid to be like kind of dumb and catty, and I don't know.
And let's face it, they're kind of like the stars of the movie because I had read this fact so many times, but having rewatched it recently to prepare for this, Aurora really is in about 18 minutes of this movie, which is great. And the movie is not super long. It's like 75 minutes, so just a bit over an hour. But 18 minutes. So there's approximately an hour of this film that Aurora does not appear in. That's crazy to me.
And it's like her story.
It's her story, yeah. But I mean, I think when you talk about this film, I think Maleficent is a much more memorable character, kind of. Having said that, I really do like Aurora. I think she's cool. She's a cool princess. I'm all about it. But I don't know. I think you leave this film thinking more about Maleficent and about the fairies than anything.
Yeah, they really, I mean, they have the most dialogue by far.
Oh, yeah. That would be really fun. We'll get to this later, I guess. But like a theatrical production, I think the casting of those three roles, those would be the roles people should want to play. Oh, goodness, the comedic moments you could have.
Oh my gosh.
Wait a sec. Let's
I'm
cast
like,
the
wait,
three
now I'm
fairies.
like, my mind is reeling.
Okay, if they were going to do like a live action, I mean, they have with Maleficent, but if they were going to do like a live action one where the three fairies were cast and celebrities today, let's see, Melissa McCarthy would be one of them.
Oh my gosh, Melissa McCarthy is Merryweather.
There you go. So,
the blue one.
Yeah, that's happening. Who else would we put in these roles? Let's see. I mean, if you're gonna go with Melissa McCarthy, you know, like the other one would be Tina Fey and then Amy Poehler. Like,
oh my gosh, I want that so bad.
I don't really know if I want that, but I would be interested to see it. At the very least, I think they should dress up for Halloween like that, and then just put that on social media. And
please,
please, that'd be kind of ridiculous.
I'm all about it. I am all about it. Let's pretend that Maleficent live action didn't happen.
Okay.
Can you see anybody else other than Angelina Jolie?
I mean, that was such an interesting casting choice to begin. I feel like that was one of those rules that when they said, "Oh, we're making a live action Maleficent," everybody was like, "Oh, Angelina Jolie," and it's like there was never any discussion about anybody else. It was always Angelina Jolie. I can't think of anybody that I would rather see play that role live action. I'm trying to think. No, do you have somebody in mind?
Not really. I was just curious.
Anybody I think would be like older, and it's honestly because the like somebody that popped into my mind. I don't think this is a good choice, but like a Glenn Close. But I'm like, it's because she was an amazing Cruella de Vil that like I think she'd be an amazing Maleficent.
I think like Helen Mirren would be like a really like salty, mean, stern, like Maleficent.
Yeah.
But she's quite old now.
Old. Yeah. I don't know how old Maleficent's supposed to be.
I don't know.
But I mean, I think Angelina Jolie is the perfect casting.
Yeah.
Just even physically, it's just like and I don't know what that means for. I don't know how it would feel if somebody came up to me and was like, "You would be the perfect Maleficent." Like, thank you. I'm not quite sure what that means, but Maleficent does have a great moment where she's talking to her little like pig men. What are
the goons?
The goons who look like little pigs, and they're obviously looking for Aurora to cast the spell and everything. By the way, we didn't give a synopsis of this. I'm assuming anybody listening knows the story of Sleeping Beauty. But with the little goons, I love that moment when they mention like 16 years later, we've looked in every crib and cradle, and she's like, "What's like all these years you've been looking for a baby?" I was like, "What?" Great. I don't know. It just made me laugh.
I love the goons so much. I love like they're also like weird and funny looking, but just They're so dumb. They're so dumb.
They're so dumb. The camera work in this film, the multiplane camera stuff through the forest, the background painting in this film I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to say if there was any Disney animated feature, and Sleeping Beauty is by no means near like my favorite Disney animated feature, but if I was going to take a painting or, from the film and hang it on the wall, it would probably be Sleeping Beauty.
I would go as far to say that I think this is some of the best animation Disney's done.
Yeah.
Like the background work is stunning.
And it's I'm blanking on the artist's name. I've talked about him. Earl?
Evan Earl.
Not Evan.
It's
there's
people
are yelling at
there's
us.
a Y in it.
People are yelling at us. You Google it while I talk for a second. Oh man, Ivan Earl. Ivan Earl.
It's just spelt really crazy.
Yeah, it's like Eyvend. Ivan Earl.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Even the concept art for this is amazing.
It's crazy beautiful, and I think it's one of the most visually beautiful Disney animated films. And yeah, it's good stuff. I loved the moment where the minstrel trying to get the drink from the two kings.
Oh my gosh, yes.
This would be another one to see like live action. Who would you want to see doing that? I'm picturing, remember the pirate in Pirates of the Caribbean who like got the fork in the eye?
Oh yeah. I'm thinking like Chris O'Dowd.
I know that name. Who is that?
He is in...
Is he like a Marvel
the
guy?
IT crowd? He's not.
Oh, okay.
Well, no, he does end up in a Marvel movie as maybe Jane Foster's new boyfriend. He's like weirdly in a Marvel movie.
Okay.
But he's, do you know the IT crowd? It was a British show.
No.
He was in is it Bridesmaids?
Oh,
that guy.
Who's in Bridesmaids?
Kristen Wiig. I think it's Bridesmaids.
I don't know.
I know that you know who he is.
I definitely. Oh, I do know. It just snapped in my mind.
Yeah.
I can picture him now. Yes.
Right? Like I think he would be great.
Okay. Yeah, I just love that scene in general. I thought that was a great scene. What were some of your favorite moments?
I am shaken to my core whenever Maleficent gives that like brilliant monologue to Philip in the dungeon when he's like all chained up, and she just like so beautifully and like with so much shade articulates like like the rest of his life, like what that's gonna be like.
Yeah.
And you see that like kind of ghosted image of like an old Prince Philip like going back out on the horse. It's like the epitome of a Disney villain to me. I'm like, that single moment is like one of the best villain moments I think we've ever had.
Tell me this. Do you remember? Because I think we could probably arguably say that Maleficent is the ultimate. She's the queen of the Disney villains. Do you think that's fair to say?
Yeah, I would say that.
She's not my personal favorite. I love Maleficent, but I love Ursula. But I think that it's safe to say that. Do you remember a time when that wasn't the case? I'm trying to figure out when this happened and kind of how it happened.
I'm wondering if I don't have like a memory of when it happened or a time before that, but I would contribute, I think, a lot of that to Fantasmic.
Yeah, okay.
When they make like the dragon form of Maleficent, like the big baddie in Fantasmic.
Yeah, Fantasmic was definitely a big thing for Maleficent, and I don't know, I'm thinking maybe because Aurora is kind of like the queen or the queen of Disneyland, that maybe that gave Maleficent a bit of power. I don't know, but
maybe
you'd think the company might try to push the Snow White hag before Maleficent, just because she was the first and stuff. But Maleficent's definitely taken over as like the ultimate baddie.
That's a good point. I mean, the fact that we are going into Disneyland like opens with Sleeping Beauty Castle.
Yeah.
And so that already has to put her at the forefront.
Yeah. So, I don't know. What were some other favorite moments that you have in this film?
You mentioned the part with the goons and that they were looking for a baby, which is one of my favorite things. And I kind of mentioned before when Fauna is trying to make this cake. The whole like concept of Fauna making the cake is amazing to me. And like, I want to eat this cake propped up by a broom. I know there's eggshells in it. But, like, I love so many moments with the fairies where they're just So delightful.
The one thing that does drive me crazy about that scene is they've now been in the forest 16 years with Aurora, and they have not been using their magic any of this time. And
Well,
yet,
they can't.
No, I understand that. Yet this is apparently the first time that they're cooking or sewing. They're like, we're like, but we can't use our magic. I'm like, you've been there 16 years. Have you not figured this out yet? That's the one thing that I will say drives me crazy. But regardless, it's a great comedic moment. Good stuff in that cottage. And
I love the woodland creatures too. Like when the owl and the squirrels and the birds are like in Philip's like hat and cape and boots, it makes me so happy.
I think that whole sequence with the song is kind of the most iconic sequence in that film. I mean, that's hard to say because the Maleficent dragon is so iconic. But I don't know, as a kid, I feel like I would often see clips of the Sleeping Beauty waltz in like little TV specials that Disney would put on. So I love it. The pink or blue gag, I think, is just hilarious and so iconic. I love it. It's funny, we're talking about Princess Aurora here, but I feel like we've talked about all around her. But like we said, she's in 18 minutes of this movie.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard to like focus on her when there's so many other great aspects about the film.
Yeah.
So it's really like, do we want to talk about Aurora? Do we want to talk about the movie that is Sleeping Beauty?
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about both. So, but they are kind of separate, like it feels like. And let's see, what else? The one thing that drives me crazy so often in Disney stuff is, do you happen to remember, so the three fairies are presenting gifts to baby Aurora at the beginning. Do you remember what the first gift was?
I know that one is song.
That's the second one.
Beauty?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The gift of beauty. That is the first thing that they give her. Ladies and gentlemen, what's the line in Fantasmic? Fame and something about, but three lovelier maids I see, and here in Mickey's imagination, truth and beauty will always survive, or something like that. Beauty, the more beautiful. I'm like, oh my gosh, talk about like archaic way of thinking.
Yeah, it's true.
And no, this was 1959, but I just thought to myself, really, the first thing, you can give this baby anything you want. These are your gifts. Beauty. All right. Well, I guess that's the most important thing in life.
It doesn't even make sense to me because we do see Aurora's mother, and guess what? She looks just like her mom.
Yeah.
Who's already beautiful.
Yeah.
I feel like they have to mean beauty is like a beautiful soul. Like it has to be beyond that, right? Like
sure, let's go with that. That's what we would like to think. But it just always makes me laugh. Yes, beauty is, or Belle, for her name is beauty. Like it's, come on. That's the most important quality in a girl, ladies and gentlemen, apparently. How does that make you feel as a girl?
I mean, it's sad to say, but I'm like not surprised. That's what I've always grown up with. You're always fed this idea of beauty and like societal beauty, and
I want a Disney princess with a unibrow. That's what I want.
Do it.
I want to see this happen. That's goals. When we reach that point, when we have the two princes married and a princess with a unibrow, we're good.
You know, I would just like to see a princess that isn't such like a stick figure. We get that a little bit with Merida's a little curvier than we normally see. And Moana, who's not like a full, like she's not official Disney princess, but she's also not this like size 00 type girl either.
Yeah, it's true. And, eyeballs not half the size of their head.
Yeah,
They just keep getting bigger. They just keep getting bigger. That's one of the things about going back to the older ones is their faces are more proportional. Definitely not their bodies, but their faces are more proportional. And then you go to like Anna and Elsa, it's like, oh, you're aliens. You are full-on alien, like UFO type of people. Cool. Let's see what else was in this film that I loved. Oh, I love the moment when, of course, Aurora and Philip meet. And first of all, I think it's so bizarre that like one of the first things in this movie is like, okay, you're betrothed to this baby. And how old do you think Philip is at this point? Like 5,
I was gonna say
6?
like maybe 7.
7 years old. And you're being told, see that baby? Yeah, that's gonna be your wife. What are you supposed to do with that information at 7 years old?
Medieval times are weird.
I mean, she had cooties at that point in his mind, you know?
Gosh.
Like, it's just crazy to me. But in any case, They meet in the forest, and he goes, "When will I see you again?" And she goes, "Never." And then gives instructions. Never. And then gives instructions to the cottage. "I'll see you tonight." I'm like, wow, you changed your mind real fast. Good for you. Like, and what is she doing? She's a naughty little girl inviting a strange man to her cottage in the middle of the night.
Look, girl just turned 16, has been locked up. She is thirsty. Philip is a snack.
Oh, man.
I love Philip. I think Philip is like, Philip is like my type.
Explain.
I don't know. He's like, I love
He's very manly.
He's super manly. I mean, Philip's the only prince that we get that slays a dragon. Think about that. Like he's like he's the embodiment of what I feel like the traditional idea of a prince is.
Yeah. Okay.
And I like
that he's got a personality.
Yeah. I love any guys that are like really great with dogs. And I feel like I truly love his relationship with his horse.
Oh.
I'm like, Philip, oh my God.
You must love Prince Eric then.
I do love Eric.
Yeah.
Eric's my number one.
Okay.
But
that's interesting because Eric and Philip feel very different to
me. Right? They're super different.
Eric's heartthrob.
Yeah.
Whereas Philip is like handsome man. So
I don't know. I feel like Matt is like my Philip. Like, I have like there's like hotties that are like I love a Hemsworth. I love like all these guys, but like who am I trying to settle down with? I'm settling down with a Philip.
All right, I like it.
Anyway.
I like it. Any other favorite moments for you?
It's not a specific moment, but I love that we see so much of Aurora as her Briar Rose kind of persona, outfit, whatever. We're not seeing all of her in this like gown. It's kind of like with Cinderella. We see a lot of her in the rags. I always love the opposite of the princess gown. I love the princess gown, but I love seeing a little bit more of maybe what they like really are.
Sure.
I don't know. I think it's like a really fun outfit, and I really kind of contribute that to Mark Davis was the animator for Aurora, and Alice Davis, who he ended up marrying, she was the one that came in and did the costume design for the Briar Rose outfit. So she's the one that made and sewed the costume for him to animate to. And they're like my favorite Disney couple ever.
That's cool.
And so like I met Alice Davis and cried like a baby. It was so embarrassing. And I'm like, I'm sorry, like you're everything. I think it's like a really cute, sweet kind of story and idea that happened behind the scenes on this movie.
Yeah, now I do have a question for you. So in this film, she turned 16. She's told, hey, number one, you're a princess. Number two, you are going to marry the prince. It's already been decided. And she has a fit because of a man she met that afternoon. I'm curious, if somebody said, hey, Tiff, you're a princess, what would the reaction be?
I mean, it wouldn't be that, I don't think. I would be so stoked.
I don't think so either. Now, I will say, being set up with somebody and not having the option of who you're going to marry, major buzzkill. That wouldn't make me very happy. But if it's going to be a prince, I'd be like, makes it a little better.
A little better. But
a little bit better.
But it doesn't mean that, I mean, let's be real, she's already seen Philip. She doesn't know. She doesn't know where her prince is going to be, but she's already seen a snack.
But I mean, she saw him, but it was like instantaneous for her. This is the classic. This is why people say, oh, Disney princesses are terrible role models because of people like Aurora. It's like, girl, get to know him a little bit. Don't be giving him directions to your cottage right after you met him.
I hate that. I hate that Aurora gets such a bad rep. She gets a bad rep for that.
Specifically? I feel like a lot of people. I mean,
no, but like I feel like her, like she kind of, because everyone is like, oh, princesses like wait for a prince to come rescue them, and she literally has no option but for Prince Philip to come and kiss her.
Sure.
And then it's like, oh, well, they just fall in love with the first guy they see, and it's like she also does that, but it's literally the first male. It's the first person she's ever seen outside of these three neurotic fairies she's grown up with. Like, I would have been completely infatuated with whoever, whatever I came in contact with for the first time. So I feel like it's very, like, I get it. I'm not like, I don't think she should have invited him back to the cottage, but I can't say that if I was 16 and saw this super hottie out of nowhere, I wouldn't do the same.
What was she planning on doing with her fairy aunts when he came to the cottage?
I don't know. Maybe she just wanted to introduce them.
They just want to watch TV together.
Yeah.
Just like,
Pick berries and chill.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing else to do.
Oh, goodness. There is a great moment with Maleficent that is really dark. You know me, I really like dark stuff. But this was kind of like, whoa. When she reveals the quote-unquote dead princess to the fairies, and she basically tells the fairies, hey, she's dead, and then she lifts her cloak, and you just see her like lying dead on the ground. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's hiding a dead body under her cloak, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal. This is a dark moment for a Disney animated feature, and I kind of love it.
Dude, Maleficent goes there. I feel like Maleficent is like a 2018 icon. She's got like that swagger, but she's so shady, and I don't know. I'm like, when I think of like spill the tea, I'm like, Maleficent is literally trying to kill a baby because she didn't get invited to a party. And that's 2018.
Yeah, even Michael Myers, spoiler alert here, if you haven't seen, actually at this point, if you haven't seen it, you don't care to. And I'm sure you didn't see it. In the new Halloween that came out this past October in theaters, Michael Myers walks by a crying baby and just looks. He doesn't even kill the baby. He has a knife in hand. Could have just stabbed that baby. Didn't. If it was Maleficent, she would have done it.
She would have.
She would have killed that baby. She is. So what we have learned today is that Maleficent is more evil than Michael Myers.
There it is.
I did not expect to get to that point on today's Princess Pondering, but somehow we did.
And that's why she's like the queen of the villains.
I love it. That's amazing. Shall we move on to the music of the film?
Sure.
So music of the film, there really isn't a ton of memorable music other than the Sleeping Beauty waltz. And I'm sure you know the history of this song, yes?
I've seen the Sleeping Beauty ballet.
Okay. So a lot of people may not realize this, but this song is not original to the film. The lyrics are, but that da 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 da, that is not a Disney song. That is a Tchaikovsky song from the ballet Sleeping Beauty, which was written in 1889. It's much older than this film. So I find that really interesting. Obviously, the film came out many years later in 1959, but that is definitely, I think, nobody would argue that's the musical moment that everybody remembers. There's a song between the kings that I think is super forgettable at one point. Are there any other musical moments?
There's the I Wonder song.
Who sings that?
Aurora. I Wonder.
Oh, yeah. That's actually a nice song, too.
Yeah, I really love that. I like that song probably more than Once Upon a Dream, just because I feel like I think it's beautiful. I love Mary Costa. The voice of Aurora is phenomenal, and I think she brings such a gravitas and mature element to Aurora.
I actually I looked up who did the voice of Aurora because of the fact that I was a little surprised to learn that the speaking voice is the same as the singing voice. They sound quite different to me, and I thought they might have used two different people, but they didn't. It's the same person.
She had an opera background, too. Like, Mary Costa is like a very talented singer.
That is a great little moment. That reminds me of tangent. Here we go. That reminds me of in Aladdin. Do you know my favorite musical moment in Aladdin? It's very strange and random, but it's the reprise of One Jump, the riff raff street rap.
Oh, yeah.
I don't buy that. Like, that's a kind of random moment. And I love your Sleeping Beauty musical moment. It's kind of random like that. Lovely, and I don't think anybody would deny that, but definitely like not the first thing most people think of.
No.
So I love it. But yeah, the Sleeping Beauty waltz, that's a great segment. We already talked about the little critters and stuff dancing and creating that moment for her, which I think is nice. So good stuff. She does have quite a bit of theme park representation, I would say.
Yeah, a lot.
Of course, she has the castle at Disneyland as well as Hong Kong and Disneyland Paris. Now, you've seen all of them. Hong Kong and Disneyland is pretty much the same thing. Disneyland Paris is... that castle is my favorite castle of all castles.
It is beautiful.
Stunningly beautiful.
I love how I feel like they really kind of captured the real true to animation style of Sleeping Beauty, especially with like it's up on a
trees.
hill
Oh, and
you have the
even
trees,
square
the square
trees.
trees.
Oh.
I'm like, give me a square tree. I love it. It's not huge. It looks a lot bigger because it's like placed up on this hill, but it's the most unique.
I love that castle. It actually really bothers me that Disney, for a company that does a very good job recreating worlds from films, of course, with Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, it's going to be intense. Although I guess technically that's not from a film. But you get my point. They recreate things from films all the time, very, very well and detailed. Their castles are never very much like the films. Cinderella Castle does not look like the castle in that film.
No.
And it always kind of bothered me. I never understood why they strayed so far from the original source, but it's interesting. But having that Sleeping Beauty castle in Paris with the dragon underground, is my favorite. You've seen the Shanghai castle in person.
I've been to all of them. I've seen all of the castles, and Storybook Castle in Shanghai is it's grand and it's very overwhelming, but Disneyland Paris's Sleeping Beauty castle is the best by far. I'm very curious what they're changing Hong Kong's castle right now.
Yeah.
I'm very curious to see kind of what's going to happen with that.
What I find interesting about that is that they're not getting rid of Sleeping Beauty Castle. They're building on top of it. So that original castle will still be there. They're just going to make it taller. I'm curious to see how it turns out because some of the concept art I've seen is very weird and kind of all over the place, and then some of it not so much. Some of it looks a bit more streamlined, and so I'm curious to see the final result on that. And yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm happy for them. I'm happy that they got a copycat, and that really wasn't fair to them. And
it was beautiful to see it. There's like mountains, like these green mountains behind it. That's stunning.
Yeah.
And they're not just, it's not just like a castle. Like, I feel like a lot of people don't know that it is an attraction. Like, you can walk through
You're talking about, here at Disneyland.
Yeah, here at Disneyland.
Is it that way at Hong Kong? I don't believe so.
I don't remember at Hong Kong, but it is also that way in Paris. It's a little more open and airy. Like, the ceiling goes way high, and you kind of go upstairs around a balcony, but... yeah, both of those actually are attractions in and of themselves.
Yeah, the walkthrough's cool. That walkthrough at Disneyland reopened. It was closed for a long time. It reopened about 5-6 years ago, something like that.
No, more than that.
8 years? I don't know. Time flies.
Tony Baxter did it. That's all I know.
That's true. So it was after I moved here, so I don't know, maybe 9-10 years ago. But... yeah, they did a beautiful job with it, and it's just nice little window scenes of scenes from, moments from the film, and done in very clever, nice ways. I'm a big fan of it, and you're right, a lot of people do miss that. So if you're going to Disneyland, keep your eye out for that. It's a cool, cool moment. Of course, we mentioned Maleficent is in Fantasmic. I've always been a huge fan of the Maleficent finale. Even bigger fan when they put in the new one at Disneyland. Like, her fire breathing is amazing. She's taken a step down because her reveal isn't nearly as grand in Fantasmic 2.0. If you want to hear my whole spiel on Fantasmic 2.0, you can find that on Disney Coast to Coast. Not a fan, spoiler. But that animatronic's beautiful. But God, they have ruined her reveal. It's so disappointing. How do you feel about it?
I don't think nothing feels ruined for me, really.
Before, you'd have the projection on the mist screen and the ha-ha-ha, and then that was my Maleficent laugh, ha-ha-ha.
You nailed it.
Thank you. And then you just start seeing the glowing eyes behind it, and she was already in place, and it was kind of like, wait a sec, where did she come from?
Is it not like that anymore?
Oh, no. Now they light her, and you see her rise up from below.
I feel like I have not seen. I've seen Fantasmic 2.0 like 3 or 4 times, but that has never registered.
Oh, it's fully lit, and you see her being put into place, and I hate it, because what was a magical moment, I'm sorry to go on this tangent, people who listen are like, we've heard this before, Joe, but they had such a great moment, because it was a huge structure, and it was done pretty darn quickly, and you were just like, where did she come from? This is incredible. And I'm like, I know exactly where she came from, because I'm watching her rise out of her elevator. Thanks for ruining what was a spectacular moment, Fantasmic 2.0. I've seen Fantasmic 2.0 3 times since it opened, and 2 of those times were not by my choice. And I used to go like every time I was at Disneyland. I'm heartbroken over Fantasmic. I'm still not over it.
No.
But at least she still breathes fire. She's a beautiful animatronic.
Hey, she's better than what they got in Hollywood studios.
People, I feel, yes. I feel bad. That's what we had for a very long time, right? We had that on the genie crane, dragon head with tassels dangling situation. We had that for a very long time, and I was always a big fan of it. The thing that bothered me about it, do you remember, like, marketing for Fantasmic back when it came out? I mean, you were super young, but they showed a Maleficent dragon figure that was like kind of like what we have today, but that was used for marketing. I'm like, what's going on here? Like, why is this not? You must have seen like the photos, right? Of like just Google. I'm gonna Google image Fantasmic, and this is essentially what they showed us when Fantasmic was opening. Hold on one sec. Let me see Fantasmic. And it wasn't a full body dragon. It was just like coming up from behind the building. But I'm like, this is not accurate to what we see. Of course, now it's not popping up when I Google it. Yes, this is a very iconic marketing image that they used for Fantasmic. This dragon doesn't exist. I would like to know where this dragon is.
Interesting.
I've never seen that dragon before in my life. But that's a cool dragon.
It is cool.
Kind of reminds me of the one that they use in Tokyo Disney Sea, where it's just like the neck that comes out. But in any case, yeah, I love Fantasmic. I'm heartbroken over it still. But Maleficent has some nice representation there. Where else? Maleficent has a beautiful float in Festival of Fantasy. Is she breathing fire yet? I don't really know.
I don't know if she is or not. There was an instance in the park, a fire instance, and the Maleficent float has been down for a considerable amount of time.
Yeah, it was a bad fire, and she blew up, essentially.
I mean, I just saw Festival of Fantasy like 3 weeks ago, and she wasn't in it.
Oh, she wasn't even in it? Oh, that's a bummer, because that's a great float. She is in Paris, and I think she's breathing fire again in Paris. I think they figured out what happened, and that's what happened. So when this first happened, like basically all fire effects and all parades were shut off, because they're like, we don't know what happened. Obviously, we don't want this to happen again. It's the right decision to be made. As soon as they figured out what had happened, they made sure that wasn't a problem with these other things, and they brought the fire back, which is great. But, that's too bad that she's still not, because it's such a great float.
I mean, it could have been just a technical thing that day. They were like calling for rain. Like there could have been a million other reasons why it wasn't in the parade that I saw.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if she's back full-fledged, but if they resolve the problem, I'm sure
eventually.
she is.
Well, I think they had to rebuild that one. The one in Florida got destroyed. Like she's a miss. So when you say Maleficent, when you hear that name, do you think of her in human form or dragon form? Because I think I probably first think of her as human, but when you think of her representation in parks and stuff, I think it's most often dragon.
I mean, when I hear Maleficent, I think of her as human.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So what attraction, are there any other attractions that you see Sleeping Beauty?
I mean, she's always the meet and greet character.
She's a meet and greet, but there's just not enough of her. Like, she's not in Mickey and the Magical Map. She's just not around a ton, I feel like. But Maleficent sure is. She has some representation.
Well, Maleficent has way more screen time than Aurora.
That is true as well. Now, if you were going to create an attraction or something in the parks for Sleeping Beauty and Aurora, what would it be?
Well, there was, when they were expanding Fantasyland and Walt Disney World, they were originally going to have an area or section, an attraction for every princess. And they had what I thought was a very sweet idea for Aurora. And guests were going to be able to go and make a birthday card. And then they were going to be surprising Aurora on her 16th birthday because she was coming back to the kingdom.
Aww.
And I thought that was so sweet and would have been so fun. And it never happened.
That is a really good idea.
Is that not amazing?
Yeah.
I don't know where it would fit. I'm trying to remember the concept art and where that kind of was on the map. But I mean, it was a full-fledged idea that Disney said, hey, we're doing this. And then it just kind of disappeared.
That's really sweet.
So good.
I like that. That warms my heart. Oh, that's sweet. Now, piece of merchandise I would love to see. Soldering magic wands. Those magic wands that like soldered the
oh my god!
How incredible would that be? If they had magic wands that sparked like soldering, I'm all over it.
It would be cool.
That'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
That'd be fantastic. Also, here's the thing. In Disneyland especially, it is her kingdom. It is her Fantasyland. It is her castle. There needs to be a dark ride or at least a show at the Royal Theater dedicated to Aurora and Sleeping Beauty. I think it's weird that there is not more of her representation in Disneyland Park. Like,
I don't know if it's like the castle is the Sleeping Beauty thing.
sure, it's an attraction, but it's not enough, especially since, like, she's not a daily meet and greet, is she? I mean, maybe she's is she the royal thing?
She's almost always out. She's sometimes in the royal hall, but she's almost always over by Snow White's well.
Really?
Like, she rotates there pretty frequently.
I don't know. I just wish that it was, or maybe it's just me. I just wish it was more noticeable that this is like her Fantasyland. It is her castle. This is the first Disney park. Like, it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, it's true.
She kind of gets the shaft, in my opinion.
I really liked her in the old where Mickey the Magical Map is. They used to have that princess coronation, and she was involved in that. I thought that was really sweet.
That would have been a good place to make birthday cards for her and welcome her back to the kingdom.
Yeah.
Oh.
I know. I'm like, I want to make Aurora a birthday card.
I know. That would have been so cool. And then they could sell birthday card materials. See, it's a marketing idea, too. I don't think that should be a dead idea. Let's take that one off the shelf. Now, do you think it should be turned into a Broadway musical?
I really thought about this because I feel like it could be, but it already is a ballet show that you can actively see touring. And what I thought would be really fun, have you ever seen An American in Paris?
I have not, no, but I know of it.
The Broadway show, it is a Broadway show. There are musical numbers, but there's such a heavy focus on ballet. And I feel like a kind of hybrid would suit a Sleeping Beauty musical really well because it kind of keeps the idea of the ballet, but then we're incorporating like these Disney songs and like this new take on Once Upon a Dream, and kind of incorporate those two.
Yeah, I don't, to me, it's like, I'd be okay if they made it a musical. It's not something I'm dying to see, but I just don't think it's a big enough property. It's a strange thing because it's a classic, and it's considered before the Renaissance in 1989. This was 1959. This was kind of like the death of classic Walt Disney animated features. And then they went through a long string. I mean, there's that documentary. It's called Waking Sleeping Beauty because Disney hadn't had like a classic Disney film, princess film, since Waking Sleeping Beauty before Little Mermaid. So we're talking 59 to 89. That's 30 years.
Yeah.
It's a long time. So it's interesting that it's so important in the history of Disney animation, but it's not recognized in a super strong way, I think.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it has to do with like the popularity of Aurora as a princess. Because like little girls love her. Like my niece's favorite princess is Aurora because she wears pink. But I don't know that it's a lot of little girls' favorite princess.
Well, she honestly, like we said, she's barely seen in the film, right? So it's not like you have tons of time as a kid to see with her, to see her and spend time with her. So I kind of get it.
Yeah.
But, you know, she's classic nonetheless. Now, direct-to-video sequels or sequels in general, we had Maleficent in 2014.
And we're getting another one.
We're getting another Maleficent. I actually enjoyed this movie. I know a lot of people like to trash it. I'm not one of those people. I thought it was enjoyable. It's not one I decide to watch repeatedly, but I think the idea of a villain's origin stories is always fascinating to me because people you're not just born evil, right? There's something that happens that causes you to get that way. And, you know, I think Wicked has made that very, very fashionable. And Maleficent does a nice job of it. But how do you feel about Maleficent?
I didn't really care for it.
Okay.
But I love getting a story behind Maleficent. Because, what we were getting was, like I said before, this dark fairy who was going to kill this child because she didn't get invited to this party. But then we kind of find out why and, her history with King Stefan and... I really like getting a glimpse and more of an idea of who Maleficent is and what kind of drives her. Yeah. But the movie as a whole, just is not really my jam.
I'm curious what they're going to do with the sequel. I definitely didn't leave that movie saying, oh yeah, what's next? I was just like, all right, like that.
There was.
Yeah, and so it'll be interesting to see. It's also interesting to me just because I've heard not great opinions of it. It must have done really well overseas or something, because I was surprised that it made enough money for them to be like, yes, let's make another one.
I feel like a lot of those live action movies, like the Tim Burton Alice ones, they do really well overseas, even if they don't like crush it here.
I will say, if it wasn't Angelina Jolie, and I'm not particularly an Angelina Jolie fan, but I do think that she's perfectly cast. I think it's fun to watch her play that part. I mean, when they essentially recreate that amazing scene with the newborn Aurora in Maleficent, and that's such a great moment and so well done that it's just kind of crazy. So there's that. Now, of course, we're going to talk for a moment about the real story, the original source of Sleeping Beauty, which, oh my God, is a bit dark and a bit crazy. The origins go back to 1697. One of the things that I found interesting was that there were 7 fairy godmothers.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. And Maleficent, they didn't call her that, but she was the 8th fairy and she was overlooked. And that's kind of why she became evil. And I thought that all that was really interesting. And of course, I think making the 3 fairies was a wise choice. But that was interesting to me. I was surprised. You know how Disney makes like their changes and puts their spin on stuff? Some of the stuff that was actually original source I found interesting, like putting the entire kingdom to sleep for 100 years. I was like, oh, okay, that's like part of the original story. And the thorns around the castle are part of the original story. I don't know why. They just felt like Disney additions to me. Did you look into the original story at all?
I didn't. No, okay. I was like, when I was watching this again, because I love the ballet and I had seen it, but it's been like 3 or 4 years, and I was trying to remember kind of what was similar. And I do remember there being a lot more fairies in the ballet, and I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Like, I'm confused. There's 3. There's only 3 and Maleficent.
Yeah.
So it's always interesting what Disney decides to change.
Well, they made some major changes, which were smart, because listen to this. A king happens to walk by Sleeping Beauty's castle and knock on the door. When no one answers, he climbs up a ladder through a window. He finds the princess and calls to her, but as she is unconscious, she does not wake up. Well, he carries her to the bed and rapes her. Yeah. Then he just leaves. She awakens after she gives birth because one of her twins sucks the flax from the spindle out of her finger. The king comes back, and despite him having raped her, they end up falling in love. However, another big problem, the king is still married to someone else. His wife finds out and not only tries to have the twins killed, cooked, and fed to the king, but also tries to burn the princess at the stake. Luckily, she is unsuccessful. The king and the princess get married and live happily ever after, despite the fact that he raped her.
I am mortified.
Yeah. That's like original source from Giambattista Basile's tale, which is like the origins of Sleeping Beauty, apparently.
Oh my Lord.
So I think that Disney made some smart changes.
A little bit.
It's crazy, right?
I'm like very upset about
sorry.
this. Like, what?
I'm sorry to end it on this note, but
oh man,
it's crazy, right?
I mean, I thought it was crazy when they like changed.
You were upset about 7 fairies,
right? Or even in Ursula, I was like, oh man, I can't believe in the original Little Mermaid they like cut out her tongue, and I thought that was the worst.
Yeah, now that's a nice little. I like that, like the Ursula thing. Okay, I'm gonna take her voice. No, in the real thing, I'm gonna cut out her tongue. Like that's a kind of cool to find out that reality. This is just like what?
This is awful.
Yeah, this is some serious.
What is this, Game of Thrones?
Exactly. This is some rough stuff, but. Anyway, that's one of the original sources for Sleeping Beauty. Anything else you want to add about Aurora or Sleeping Beauty before we wrap things up here?
I don't know. I don't think so. Fun little like story though.
Yeah, I love
guess. I have a cousin who is a bartender in Knoxville. And he works at this like kind of fancy place, whatever. And this like one older woman would come in all the time, and he kind of befriended her. And it's Mary Costa.
No kidding.
And he's like been to her house.
Wow.
He said that she has she's still alive. She has a beautiful like white piano, and she's like, Walt Disney gave me this.
Wow.
And he said like going through her house, she just like explained what everything was, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to meet her. And she sent me like a gift, and it's like it's like a beautiful like still of Sleeping Beauty, and she signed it as like Sleeping Beauty and Mary Costin's beautiful gold frame.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm like, I want to when I go back home next, I want to try to meet her.
So she's in Tennessee.
She's in Tennessee, yeah.
Wow.
East Tennessee.
That's cool.
Sleeping Beauty.
I like it. Well, I think that's going to wrap up Aurora and Sleeping Beauty for us. But I do want to remind you, folks, if you enjoyed this Princess Pondering and you haven't listened to the others, this is the final Princess Pondering. Princess Pondering took a look at all of the official Disney princesses, starting all the way back with Ariel on episode 402 of Disney Coast to Coast. We did Belle on episode 408, Snow White on 412, Rapunzel on 416, Pocahontas on episode 423, Cinderella on 431, Mulan on 435, Jasmine for 443, Tiana, which is where you joined in for these, on episode 541, Merida on episode 583, and of course today's episode is Aurora from Sleeping Beauty. So it's been quite the run with Princess Pondering. That does end Princess Pondering until Disney dubs a new official Disney princess. So do you think that'll ever happen? And if so, do you think we've met her yet?
I really foresee in the next few years Moana being an official Disney princess.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. I think she's kind of going down that path.
All right. Well, we might be back here then to talk about Moana as an official Disney princess, which would make 12, right?
Yeah.
I think that would make 12. Excellent. Well, I think that means it's trivia time. All right, Tiffany, do you want to hit me with a trivia question first, or shall I hit you?
How about you go first this time?
Okay, well, Disneyland opened in 1955, but Sleeping Beauty was released in 1959, which is 4 years later. So what was the original name for Sleeping Beauty Castle when the park opened?
Oh, that's a great question. I do not know. I'm assuming it wasn't with any Disney property. Or was it? Did they call it like Snow White Castle?
This is a trick question.
Did they not call it anything? Did they still call it Sleeping Beauty Castle?
It was called Sleeping Beauty Castle from the very beginning, which I think is kind of amazing. Because listen, we've heard stories many times. We've heard The Little Mermaid was being developed back in Walt's day, and of course didn't get made till 1989. We've heard that about Beauty and the Beast. We've heard that about many, many, many Disney projects. It amazes me that this man had so much faith in Sleeping Beauty 4 years before its release. That's a long time.
Yeah.
That he said, nope, we're calling it Sleeping Beauty Castle. Can you imagine if it was just like, you know what, Sleeping Beauty isn't going to happen? Because in 4 years, that could happen.
Yeah.
It's not like the film's almost done at that point or anything. So I really think it's a testament to Walt's faith in this project. And I think it's interesting that this park opened, which is part of the reason why I think maybe Sleeping Beauty Castle doesn't look like Sleeping Beauty Castle in the film.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
I think that's why. Now, Cinderella Castle, I obviously they knew what it should look like, and they still decided not to make it look like the one in the film. But Sleeping Beauty Castle, I think that may be part of the reason, plus budget. Let's face it. But yeah, from day one, 4 years before that film opened, Walt Disney was still calling it Sleeping Beauty Castle. So I apologize for the trick question.
That's okay. That's fascinating.
I think it's an interesting little story.
What a man, opening a park like with a marketing ploy.
Yeah.
Walt was smart. He knew.
The whole thing. I mean, I love the whole fact that Adventureland was originally supposed to be called True Life Adventureland, like based on the Walt Disney's True Life Adventure documentary series. Like, I think it was much more IP than people think.
Yeah.
You know, like it wasn't IP in the way we know it today, but it was all, I mean, Frontierland was Davy Crockett land. You know, I mean, it wasn't called that, but that's essentially what it was. And he was doing exactly what we're doing today.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to me.
Love it.
Anywho, what do you got for me?
All right. So we've talked a lot about the fairies.
Yes.
Verna Felton she's very notable within the Disney archives as a voice actress, and she was the voice of Flora, who is the red fairy.
Okay.
Can you name the other two prominent Disney characters that she voiced?
Ooh, the red fairy. Pink, right? The pink fairy.
Yeah, the
right?
pink one.
Okay. Ooh, I'm trying to
think
picture her voice.
if you could hear her voice, then you would know.
I didn't think. Usually, I'm pretty good at like watching the movies and being like, "Oh, that's so and so." Because isn't like Maleficent the evil stepmother in Cinderella as well? Yeah. I didn't think of anybody initially when I heard of it, but let me think of that time period. Would Give me one of the movies. What movie would it be in?
Cinderella.
Cinderella. I want to say Lucifer, but Lucifer doesn't talk. Is she one of the evil stepsisters?
No.
Who is she in Cinderella?
She's a fairy godmother.
No kidding.
I mean, she doesn't even change her voice.
That actually makes me love her even more.
She's also the Red Queen in Alice in Wonderland.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
Wow.
When you hear those two together, the fairy godmother and Flora sound a lot alike. Even the way they're drawn, they're kind of similar. They kind of got those big, chubby cheeks. But the Red Queen is really kind of out there for her. But you can hear it. Once you know, when you watch them, you can definitely hear it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. Good trivia. I was clueless on those. Tiffany, why don't you let folks know where they can find you?
Sure. I'm on Instagram at TiffMink. I am at Minkus on Twitter. I'm also Tiffany Mink on YouTube now, which is fun.
There we go.
But you can find me on Who's It's and What's It's. Also, is my Disney-inspired apparel line if you're into any of that.
WhoSitsWhatSits.com.
That's it.
I love it. Guys, don't forget you can find all of Disney Coast to Coast social media over at DisneyCoastToCoast.com. So go over there, follow, do all that fun, fabulous stuff we do here in the 21st century. And of course, leave those 5-star ratings and reviews on iTunes to help other Disney fans find the show more easily. I hope somebody in the 22nd century is listening to this and being like, oh, he just mentioned the 21st century. It's so old school. That's really far into the future.
Is YouTube around? I don't know.
No. Podcasts are not around. If they are, they're implanted in your head. And I really hope they're listening to something else by the 22nd century. But in any case, guys, thank you for joining us for the final Princess Pondering. Tiffany, thank you for joining me for the final Princess Pondering.
Thanks for having me.
And everybody, have a magical day. Bye.
Thanks for watching Disney Coast to Coast. Have a magical day.
Disney Coast to Coast is produced and hosted by Jeff DePaoli. Learn more about the podcast and become a supporter at DisneyCoastToCoast.com.